it cost double what it would cost for a regular 3/4 ton pickup. People thought when I bought this, I'd lost my mind. You know, you can have 2 trucks. What do you want this one for?
Hi folks, and welcome to Center Lane. I'm Bruce Hitchin. Today I'm at the home of Brian Beard. Now you might remember Brian from a few years ago when we did a story on his collection of vintage fire trucks. Well, today Brian has a couple of vintage pickup trucks that he wants to show us. Now these pickup trucks are extremely rare. They're Mercury branded pickup trucks and they're 4x4s, which makes them ultra rare. The 4x4s and all of the Mercury pickups were sold only in Canada from 1946 to 1968. Brian's going to tell us a little bit more about these trucks.
Very few people in the late 50s, early 60s had 4-wheel drives. You couldn't go to a car dealer and say, I'll take that yellow one or that blue one. There were no 4-wheel drives on their lots. So if you wanted a real truck, it had to be factory ordered. The cost of buying these is expensive. So a 3/4 ton pickup was about $2,000. The green truck here is $4,000.
Ford created Mercury branded trucks for the Canadian market because not all small communities had both a Ford and Mercury dealer. This gave the consumer the option, depending upon what was available to them.
In Canada, they had the Mercury dealerships here. And so I guess they felt they had to have a truck to match their dealership because there were Ford dealers and Mercury dealers. So the Mercury dealers wanted to have their own brand to match their Mercury cars. The attraction for the Mercury was because of the attraction it always came with, that little extra panache. And everybody felt, I guess, that the Mercury was more superior because the Mercury car was far superior to a Ford, right? When they were building them, people were buying them. So it grew up with a little bit of a little more cachet around the name Mercury, and people somehow believed that the Mercury truck was a better, finer truck than the Ford truck. Well, the Mercury brand was only in Canada, and as time went on, they became less and less available because the Auto Pact was coming in, and by 1968, I think it was March of 68, no more Mercury trucks were produced. Even in 67, where the green one is here, it came from San Jose factory in California.
When Brian was told of another red Highboy for sale in Saskatchewan, he jumped at the chance.
He said, I know where there's a red one. And I said, is it a Mercury? And he said, yes. He said, I'm sure it's a Mercury. And I said, where is it? And he said, it's in Saskatchewan. And the people that own it, they want to sell it. And he did a lot of work on this truck. But I guess they kind of lost interest in it. I had it brought out on a car carrier from Saskatchewan. So what's fascinating about these is the 66, the red one, and the 67, the running gear is completely identical. The engine, the transmissions, the front ends, the rear, everything is the same, the transfer case. But the bodies are different because in 67, Ford went to this different body. And people today really love the 67 to 72s. I saved up my money. I had $500. My father thought I'd lost my mind. And I put a down payment on this truck and ordered it from the factory. It took 2 months to get it. I can remember going down to the rail yards in Edmonton. In those days, the cars and trucks all came on open carriers. So I'd go down there when I thought it was about time for it to come. And one day, I can still see this in my mind, that truck was sitting on top of a car carrier in the rail yard. I can still remember seeing it sitting there, and I just couldn't wait to get my hands on it. When you're a country kid, a truck is prettier than a car, and it's hard for people to understand that. But when I got this truck and took it out, people would say to me, this is the prettiest truck we've ever seen. We've never seen anything like this. This is the prettiest. And they would just go on and on about it because it was so different. Most people would order a regular truck, red. They were pretty well all red or white at the time. And I don't know, I was really proud to have it. It was something about wanting something special maybe in that way. But I knew that a four-wheel drive is really special. And one of our neighbors used to coyote hunt on Sundays in the prairies, and he'd had a power wagon. And he'd take that power wagon in the ditches, through the trees. Nothing bothered him. And I was a young kid, and I was sitting in that passenger seat there. I just thought this was the greatest machine I'd ever ridden in. So when I first got it, I wanted to use it as a four-wheel drive. And we'd take it up to the mountains, and well, I have a picture of it, really stuck. There's pictures of it crossing rivers, and it was a fun thing to have.
Due to automotive tariffs at the time, Mercury trucks were created for the Canadian market, and other than badging, they were exactly the same as a Ford.
They're identical trucks. The front ends, the rear ends, the transmissions, the four-wheel drive components are Spicer, Dana Spicer, and the engines are all Ford. So they provided those out of America on pallets up to Canada to be installed.
When Brian went to university, he was forced to sell the truck to his uncle to be used on his farm.
What we agreed to was I would take it out to the farm. They used the truck for the next 20 years, probably until the late 70s. So the truck sat and sat. So 30 years later, in about 2012, I think it was, Buck phoned me up and he said, you know, I'd like you to have your truck back. He said, I'm going to have the restoration done for you. I want you to manage it. And so it took about 2 years to restore this truck. And it's 100% restored, but everything about it is 100% original, except some of the body parts that were badly rusted had to be replaced. This truck was ordered with a V8 engine. It came standard with a 6. It was ordered with a 4-speed transmission. It came standard with a 3-speed on the column. It was ordered with a heavy-duty front end, which is a 3,500-pound front end, which gave it a 7,700-pound GVW. So it's got a heavy-duty radiator and a big battery. I ordered, make it a really heavy-duty truck as far as I could do. And then I made it a custom cab, which is also rare. And then I decided we had to have cab lights, like a real big truck, right? Had to have the cab lights and a white roof. And so all those things were my decision to order it. Seeing it on the rail car that day, I've never forgotten that. And I think it's just in my heart that it's just special to me. I mean, if you think about when you're a teenager, you're driving something like that down the road, and people stopped and stared. People want to ask you questions. The kids around here couldn't buy anything but old cars. Everybody had old cars, right? Nobody really had a pickup that looked anything like this. So I think that's part of it. And because it's been in the family for so long, I think it makes it really special.